Dear viewers, thank you for joining us. You're watching our weekly program, Talk to OBN, on your favorite media channel, OBN Horn of Africa. In this edition, we'll be talking about the recent development in the northern part of Ethiopia, which is the TPLF's alignment with Eritrea, Egypt, and other internal factions. To discuss this matter, I am joined by Dawit Teferi, diplomatic representative of Eritrean Blue Revolutionary Front. Dawit, thank you for making time for this interview.
Thank you for inviting me here at this, and I look forward to speaking to your audience.
Tell me about your front, which is Eritrean Blue Revolutionary Front, its mission, vision, and aspiration.
Eritrean Blue Revolutionary Front is a grassroots group that started in Europe in 2022. It developed into a political movement in 2025. We established the EBRF as a political wing that hopefully will create a political capital to allow us to democratize Eritrea by building a global alliance and to build a network of different skill set to ensure that we bring transition into Eritrea in a safe way while maintaining the country as one piece. Our ideology, our mission is to bring peace, a lasting peace. And one of the first things we'd like to address is always going to be how our national identity as Eritreans need to evolve now to be in interest of the citizen rather than a hate of Ethiopia. For the last 35 years, Eritrea was just built in the hate of Ethiopia, creating a bogeyman called Ethiopia. And that allowed the dictatorship of Eritrea to stall, or literally, there was no national building because of that, because there is an enemy. We have to be waiting for the enemy called Ethiopia. And that's why the first thing, vision we did is we stopped hate. And we reached out to everybody, to all of Ethiopia and all ethnic equally, to ensure that we bringing a new vision to Eritrea's relationship with Ethiopia.
Well, Dawit, why Eritrea remained a democratic nation being ruled by one man over 3 decades without any regime change?
It's very phenomenal. Like in the same period, Ethiopia had, I think, 4 or 5 prime ministers. That tells you something. Essay Afeworki and his regime stalled any nation-building activity, whether creating a constitution or building institutions or educating the public. And they just used the rhetoric of Ethiopia's coming to invade us to stall national progress. It is very unfortunate. The ruling elite in Eritrea today, they failed the country, failed their people, and they use Ethiopia as a scapegoat for their failures. And the reason the opposition were not very successful to building a momentum to remove Essay, because Essay always controlled Eritrean opposition. He will create multiple oppositions and try to confuse Ethiopians. And they built this like a fence called, if you work with Ethiopia, you're an enemy of Eritrea. And that fence makes you geographically limited in what you can do. If you can get your family in Ethiopia, your friends in Ethiopia to support, who's going to support you in bringing democracy or justice into Eritrea? Even our independence, we did not gain our independence without working with people internally in Ethiopia, whether the TPLF at the time or the Oromo Liberation Army or under working with the ethnic groups. Let's remember in 1990, there was a coalition of ethnic groups called the EBRF that created that political framework that allowed Eritrean independence. So without working with our fellow Ethiopians, friends, we could not achieve independence. And that's something that the Eritrean regime would never tell Eritrean people. It makes you look like an enemy. And that's something we intend to change, and now we're introducing a new mindset on how to work in this region.
Okay, you're a diplomatic representative of Eritrean Blue Revolutionary Front, and how are you working to bring regime change and to bring democracy over Eritrean horizon?
Fantastic. It's a great question. It's a very complex situation. I'm not sure if I can speak about everything, but I can assure you we are open for all options, whether it's let's say you could say violent or non-violent solutions. But our focus is going to be on building consensus. Because you could topple a government easily, but maintaining a country together, you need a world to work with you, particularly like an important partner like Ethiopia, in ensuring that we can stabilize Eritrea. So our vision is very simple. We will create a platform where we ensure our message is clearly getting into Eritrea. As you know, Eritrea is a black box, and the regime is trying to use all types of methods to ensure we don't get close to our country. And that's why we are here now getting close to our country to ensure we start building, let's say, if you will, a machine that could allow us to deliver our message to the Eritrean people. We believe the regime had failed the people, and the people in Eritrea are ready for change. We just need to encourage them to bring change themselves and build a mechanism to secure that change so the country doesn't go into sideways, and ensure that we can become we can create a very, let's say, robust transitional government to ensure we become a peaceful, good neighbor to you and all our neighbors, and we secure the Red Sea together.
Okay, Eritrea is becoming this partner in crime of TPLF nowadays. And my question is, I put it in the slides. The first one is TPLF is a Tigrayan People Liberation Front, and it's a age-long acronym, but still working to liberate the people.
Yes.
All the same.
Yes.
Like we can trace back when TPLF embarked this mission. It was to liberate the people. Still is working to liberate the people. Does that make sense?
That's actually make no sense, because were they liberating the people when they ruled Ethiopia for 27 years? Not at all. The TPLF is similar to EPLF. Actually, the same. They are cousins, like we and the people in Tigray. As you know, we share everything. And people who lead TPLF are very related to the people in EPLF. They split. They work together at a certain time. They come together. Liberation Front make no sense, because the people of Tigray are Ethiopians and they live in Ethiopia. They don't need any liberation from anything. If anything, they need a liberation from TPLF. That's what it looks like it. But it is the most dangerous thing that these two groups created in our region. They woven ethnic politics. They use ethnicity. If you go today and listen to their media, they are somehow, without being elected, without consulting the people, they say they represent the people. And that's very sad. In Eritrea, the regime never held any election to ensure to say like he represent the people. And TPLF the same way. They will win an election 99%, but in reality, they don't have any support or even consultation with their people. And they're driving the Tigrayan people towards war with the federal government. It looks like it, at least for now.
How about the alignment of TPLF and Eritrea, Egypt, and other factions in the country? Is that going to be long life, or?
It's a marriage of convenience. They only are getting, we know TPLF and EPLF of the Eritrean regime they fought against each other as long as they've been allies against each other. So you could say they were allies from 1975 to 1991, with periods of fighting. And between 1991 until 1998, they were kind of allies. And then from 1998 until 2024, they were enemies. So for the longest period, they were enemies. The only reason they became friends now, for two reasons. The Eritrean regime is afraid of us to be close to our country. So he's expediting Sumdo on that hope. And second, Isias needs a new enemy. And that's the enemy is the, let's say he chose the Prime Minister or the Bulgaria government or the Prosperity Party as an enemy, or Ethiopian government for that matter. So he have to find an ally. Isias is a coward. He will never fight alone. In his history, he never fought alone. He needs somebody to stand next to him. The only time he fought alone in 1998 to 2000, we know how the outcome of that war was. So he went back to TPLF. And TPLF, because they're so disjointed and they focus on getting back to ruling Ethiopia, they went to the alliance. And that alliance only is going to be as good as the moment they have a common enemy. And that common enemy, even themselves, they don't agree on it fully. Because the alliance itself is very weak. It's not based on the interests of the people. It's on the interest of two dictatorships. The dictatorship that exists in Tigray and the dictatorship that exists in Eritrea. Now, Egypt, always we have to, as local Horn Africans, we should always be careful about saying, okay, everybody have different interests, absolutely. But the one bringing Egypt to the formula is Essay Afeworki. He's using, because he has sovereignty, to ensure that he can offer the Egyptians something to confuse them and bring them into a conflict. Because remember, he's a coward. He doesn't like to fight alone. And that's why he goes back and tries to confuse the Egyptians. I think what the Ethiopian government should do a direct outreach to the Egyptians. The Egyptians have a very professional government. They know what's best for their people. And I think they should choose to work directly with the Ethiopian government, resolving any small minor issues that exist today around God or any other issues. Ethiopia is not a reliable partner. That's my message to the Egyptians. Ethiopia will never be a reliable partner to anyone. And TPLF and EPLF friendship is a short-lived one.
Okay, good. By mongering war, TPLF is breaching the Pretoria Agreement.
Yes.
It's a beating drum to fight against the TPLF, against the federal government by aligning with anti-Ethiopians. How do you see the TPLF's act, especially in connection with the Pretoria Agreement?
The TPLF it breached the Pretoria Agreement from 6 months in, because you either become part of a country or you don't become part of the country. You can't just be an autonomous region when you're trying to have a horn bigger than the federal government. Even me as an Eritrean, I'm not going to allow it in my own country. So how come I expect the federal government of Ethiopia to allow it? You have to work in a responsible, reasonable way. And understand the last war, the TPLF made Tigray the battlefield. And the Tigray people suffered the most from that last war. And there is no reason for them trying to antagonize issues. So there is there is territorial issues within that agreement, but that could be resolved because ultimately, whether Tigray or other regions, are all of them part of Ethiopia. And I think it just makes more sense to resolve this in a peaceful way than actually trying to go and bring a foreign power like Eritrea or somebody else to fight a war that the battlefield will be your home. And the victims will be your people.
Very good, Dawit. Ethiopian government had there's a legit sea access quest. Do you buy that thought? Do you buy that quest? Is that fair and justifiable?
100%. I think it's justifiable. I read Tibor Nagy wrote something, and I liked it a lot. And he said the Egyptians and were talking with the Eritrean government and saying the Red Sea, the countries that the Red Sea should worry about the Red Sea are the countries on the Red Sea. And that makes me wonder what Egypt has to do with Lake Tana. Lake Tana is in Ethiopia, correct? But it is about having that interest. So if you're using the Nile, the Nile that actually originates from Ethiopia, but you live off of it, you have interest, even though the origin of that water is coming from Ethiopia. So there is a legal reason for that. And likewise, Ethiopia, even though it's not another Red Sea, it have all the rights to be interested in the Red Sea. Ethiopia is a big country with a big population, with a growing economy, and it needs to ensure that it have direct access to the sea. And I don't have to invent the wheel. There is an international UN convention for loss of the sea, in which we can, as Eritrea, as a country, can sign that agreement and make it legally binding for us to offer Ethiopia of full access to the sea. We will work the details with the federal government. We've been working on it. That's one of the things we are here for. I cannot speak on the details, as you can imagine, but I can assure you, if we became a government in Eritrea, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to sign that UN convention that will allow us to create a legal framework that gave Ethiopia a full access to the Red Sea in a very generous agreement in return for some economic concessions to Eritrea. And that's kind of like, so,
Okay.
yes, I know.
Tell me your ideal Eritrea after the removal and hostage of the incumbent leader.
So the ideal Eritrea is Eritrea that understands its indigenous background. It's comfortable to say, hey, I have family in Ethiopia, I have family in Sudan, I have family in Djibouti, I have family in Somalia. That's indigenous in its own core, that promotes the different ethnic groups' rights and ensure that the cultures are preserved, but yet becomes modern, democratic, and built on system of laws that allows equality. I live in Canada. My business partner is East Indian. My staff are Filipinos, Chinese, all ethnic groups. I have Russian working for me. What brings us together is the rule of law. The Canadian people are not different than me as Eritrean or different than you as Ethiopian. They have two hands, we have two hands. What we need to do is to learn from good experiences, make sure we build rules, regulation that's fair, everybody equal. And we should not define people based on religion or ethnicity. There's indigenous people, Eritrea belongs to them. And we make them live and prosper together, and that's the way to run the country. So that's my vision.
Okay, how do you pitch your aspiration, your mission and vision to the youth in Eritrea? Because it's all closed. How do you do that?
So Eritrea have we've been very successful. I have some of my colleagues, is well-known influential leader called Bayane Gazgier, his name Wufi, and people like him are victims of the regime. They came up with a new ideology, was very clear on that the first step for us to defeat the regime is to destroy their ideology, and especially the ultra-nationalism. Eritrean ultra-nationalism is a problem because it's like a Nazi nationalism based on hate, not on cooperation. It is based on like, oh, you have an enemy. But it never really slowed down and understand history and say, hey, maybe my grandfather did a mistake too. Not all Ethiopians are evil. Not all Eritreans are good people. We just need to understand our history from a practical standpoint, and we have to start preaching that our culture by nature is pro-Western, pro-democracy in its nature. It's very democratic. Here, people can switch religion, no problem. Nobody kill you. People come from different ethnicities. They have mixed backgrounds. It is important for us to embrace that culture and preach it. So how we did that is by going to social media and talking to people. And people like Bayane and other people were very influential in creating an anger or momentum that people really despise the regime's ideology. That's why in Europe there was a lot of protests. Some of it went too violent, but it allowed us to build that momentum to make the people angry against the regime. And we believe with some technological advancement, we'll be able to deliver our messaging to Eritrea, and with some political maneuvering, hopefully, we should be able to bring down the regime very easily, because the regime had failed the people. You go to Eritrea today, there is no hospitals. People sleep on the ground. There's no beds in the hospital. There's no services. There's no jobs. The country runs on a smuggled goods. The government acts like a mafia. There is nothing there to stand for. The only thing, the mistake we will do if we leave this regime survive for any longer. So our mission is very simple, to deliver a message of hope that was successful in Europe, bring it into Eritrea in a more productive and professional way, and hopefully that will lead us to success.
Okay, this country, which is Eritrea, is cut off from regional integration, Pan-Africanism, and any sort of African aspiration and revival. How do you bring this thing into the plate after succeeding with your mission?
Yeah, like the first thing we do, the first step we're going to do is, as a country, is we're going to sign that UN convention that should allow us to start working directly and diligently with the Ethiopian government and getting the sea access. And then we will open up internet. We'll try to bring new technology to ensure our population get connected. Ethiopia has progressed a lot. It's actually, we look forward to work with Ethiopian banks, with Ethiopian professionals, in helping us rebuild the country, because we're going to become good trade partners. So it makes sense for us to be ensuring that our system talk to each other, whether it's banking, whether customs. We want to make sure we have one of the best transit experience of products and goods between international borders. So when a product lands, it's automatically can get delivered to Ethiopia, or a product shipped from Ethiopia directly to Eritrea with no issues. The good news, Eritrean people have a lot of hope. There's people like me from the diaspora. There's a lot of millions of Eritreans in diaspora who got educated, who never had a chance to build the country to become fully modernized and integrated with the region. So I'm very hopeful that once we remove this dark cloud, we should be able to have a functioning government in no time. And after that, we will be able to work with Ethiopia, working with the United States and other partners, international partners. In 5 to 10 years, Eritrea should become a prosperous country. But the first step to do that is to remove the ideology of hate and paranoia towards neighbors, and particularly Ethiopia. We have to embrace who we are. You're my neighbor, you're my brother, we have to get along. If I can't make peace with you, who am I going to make peace with? So it is very important for us to have that mindset, and we're going to work on it.
Okay, what is the stand of Eritrean diasporas who live overseas, especially in hosting the incumbent leader to bring lasting peace and lasting democracy in Eritrea?
Yeah, here's the thing. See, Eritrean diaspora, you cannot look them separate from the regime's oppressive ways. The regime have cultivated over the last 60 years a network of what you call transnational repression networks that it ensures there was no dissent. And that's why our group had to fight hard and separate ourselves away from that confusion that the regime creates. Most of Eritreans, they're always there, they're just saying people vote with their feet. If people are leaving the country, that tells you people are not happy with the government. But the government controls media and the country's image. That's why they have it locked down. So the diaspora are victims of that. So most of the diasporas are not comfortable to go and speak against the government because they're afraid of the repercussions. None of these people are going to go fight for Essay Afeworki. I can guarantee you. None of these Eritrean diaspora, and I say this publicly, none of them will go and fight for him because nobody believes in the regime. But they're so afraid to speak against it. So people like my group, once we do a change, we expect a lot of people to join our movement and grow. And we have a very strong movement in Israel. Our chapter there is like 25,000 members. Throughout Europe, we have hundreds of thousands of supporters. And it's always difficult to bring our position together when they're so scattered all over the world. But that's why we chose Ethiopia as our headquarters for conducting our business, because that will allow us to create a central point to bring everybody together, and we can march from there to our home country.
Okay, some critic consider Essay Afeworki as a threat to the Horn of Africa. Would you buy this notion?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you a long history. As a Eritrean who was born in Sudan, in 1994, the Essay Afeworki, when it was the Prime Minister Meles Zenawi at the time, started a war against Sudan. Now, I don't remember the pretext of that war, but it was just a war that led to an issues for a lot of Eritreans who lived in Sudan. And guess what? In 1995, they had a border issues with Yemen. In 1998, they had a border issues with Ethiopia. In 2008, he had a border issue with Djibouti. In 2009, he was indicted, or he was proven to have connection with the Somali opposition called the Youth Council, which became Al-Shabaab. And it was the sanctions, because of that, there were sanctions brought forward on Eritrea in 2009. So he's an antenna for conflicts. He's no antenna for prosperity. His ideology stems on being the most important person in the Horn of Africa, and he lives off conflicts. So right now, if there's A joke when somebody told me from Eritrea, he said, this Essay Afeworki, if he sees two people building a building, he says to you like, oh, that's not our business. Yeah. But if he sees two people fighting, he says, let's go fight with them. His ideology is all about destruction.
If there is war, there is...
He's happy. He want to join in the party, but he never fights alone. Remember, ECS never fights alone. This is something that he likes to confuse.
He's pro-war.
He's pro-war, but he needs friends to fight. He can't fight alone. He's a menace.
Okay. Any message for Eritrean and Ethiopian people, if you have, finally?
My final message is always like we as people have to move on from the past ideologies, and we have to look at the future. We have to learn from the European Union. The Europeans have killed each other more than we killed each other. And yet they figure out a way to live together. And we need to look at something like the European Union and aspire and open borders and working together. And we have to move on. Nobody's a victim and nobody's just an aggressor. It's a combination of historical mistakes that always we pay the result for it. We pay the ultimate result from it. In order to move on, is to need to embrace our history and say there was a mistake. My grandfather did a mistake, your grandfather did a mistake. But what we should do about the future, that's what matters. And we should learn. The European Unions and the Western values is something that I love to aspire to bring to our region. And based on those, we can actually bring democracy and cooperation. So I'm end my message. I'm very positive about our region. We'll become two prosperous countries working together.
Dawit Teferi, diplomatic representative of Eritrean Blue Revolutionary Front. Thank you for this valuable insight about the ongoing tension between the federal government and that of anti-Ethiopian actors, mainly TPLF, Eritrea, Egypt, and other internal factions.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and I hope to see you again.
Very good. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. This brings you to the end of our edition for today. Bye-bye. Take care. Have a good one.